All right, everybody, how you doing? Back again here. So now I'm going to try to attempt to put this, start putting this DNA 200. It'll actually be DNA 130 watt, 131 watt, I believe it was on the specs. I'm going to try to start putting this together. All right. So what I'm going to do first, like I said in my previous video, if you've seen it, we're going to be going with dual 18650. Okay. Now, we still got to put on this thing here. Now they're calling this, this is called tap. All right, now this is going to be what's going to charge it. All right, it's going to keep your cells even, that whole thing. Now this is still required. All right, still required to operate this board. So I'll show you what we're going to do with that. First, when you get it, the other side isn't connected to the board. They give you the option to put it where you want to put it. So I'm going to solder it on here, and then I'll show you after the fact once we get this all on. Now bear with me because this is going to be a long one, I believe. Now there's 4 pins. Okay. Now you see I just used this little wire just to give a little space there so it wasn't tight sitting against the board. And if you see here, I don't know, focus on that. Alright, so I just soldered on the tap. Alright, with the 4 points here. Alright, now when you go to solder this on, make sure that you're putting it the right direction. Alright, because you got this piece here, you can see the black, red, the black on the outside, that's going to be your ground. So you want to make sure that when you go to plug this in, that your black is going to meet up with, you soldered on the right direction. Alright, if you see here on the back side, I don't know if it'll focus in on that. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It says ground there. So we got the black wire on the outside matching up with the ground. Okay, that's very important when you go to connect this up later. Alright. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, I guess I decided here I'm going to completely wire up this, put all the wires on this first. So Evolve recommends using 14 gauge wire for your output. Okay, so that's what I got here. I got 14 gauge, I got a piece of black and a piece of red. Alright, positive, negative. Alright, so I'm just gonna put some solder on this first. Alright, let's see, let's get these. Just freshen up these pads. Alright, so if you see on the back here, everything's pretty much labeled where you need to put everything. So up here on the top, alright, you got your output positive and your ground. Alright, it's labeled. Everything, like I said, everything's labeled on the board. You're not going to be able to completely read that because of the focus. And then on the bottom down here, by the battery taps, these two pads here on either side, you got a B minus and a B positive. That's for your input. For this mod, the way it's set up, it's all I'm going to have to hook up actually to this. So it's actually pretty simple. All right, so like I said, 14 gauge. I'm just going to put the side of the red on to the output. This 14 gauge wire can be a little bit of a pain, especially because I need to keep it flat. I need to keep it coming off straight. Alright, there we go. Got a good melt there. Alright, so I'm just going to pre-solder this negative wire. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So you can see there we got just coming off the top your output positive and negative. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. For the battery input, they recommend 18 gauge being good for that. All right, so I got 18 gauge wire here, same thing. I'm actually going to cut this down a little bit. I'll use just about that much, the red piece. So, about that length, about that size. All right, going to go directly onto the board. Again, pre-solder the wire. All right. Strip the positive. Now when you're stripping these wires, you don't want to strip a whole lot. You want to keep it pretty short. You don't need a whole lot exposed here. And I found that to be true with pretty much all the Evolve boards that I've worked with so far. I mean, I've worked with all of them. So I'm going to spin this around and, you know, just attach your wires for your input to the corresponding pad. You know, black is negative. That's, you know, I'm going to run black is negative. So we're going to just touch that down. Okay, and red as positive. Alright, now at this point, I'm pretty much done with this board altogether for now. Now, what I'm going to do also is I'm going to just plug this guy in here because I'm going to end up hardwiring these connections, and we'll go through that later. But I guess I'll explain this real quick. So, what we got here, all right, these 4 wires. Okay, so on your battery tray, the black one is going to go to your negative, red one, which is pin 1, is going to go to your positive. All right. Now pin 2 is going to go down to the bottom where your positive and your negative are connected on the bottom of the tray to bring the voltage around. Okay, this is going to be your tap that's going to go down there. Now also when I reading on Evolve's data sheet, pin 2 and pin 3 need to be jumped or connected to the same place. So I'm going to run this white and the yellow down to the same direction. I'll show you that when we get down there. But for all intents and purposes, I don't need to unplug this. Just make sure everything is tight, plugged in. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to drop this in its place. So now the only thing I got left to do with this board is to attach the screen, and I'm going to wait to the end to do that so we don't have any accidents. Alright, just tuck the wires down to the right holes. Okay, these got to go down here too. These are all being held up here. Alright, I gotta reattach these 14 gauge wires here. They're sticking up too far to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring them down to the bottom of the pad. Okay. I'm going to take the black one off here. Move it. Alright, usually I give a little tug. This one ain't actually on there that great. This 14 gauge wire can be a pain in the ass, that's for sure. Alright. Make sure nothing's touching. Okay. Alright, let's try that one more time here. Alright, much better. Get that clear. Alright. Looks like the same thing, my battery and wires are doing the same thing. They need to come more off the back. So, you know, it's mostly trial and error. I'm doing this, like I said, for the first time, so do it together, I guess. So I'm just going to have these guys come off the back, so they're kind of facing towards the inside of the board. This way, try to keep everything out of the way. This box is, you know, custom made, very particular about how everything sits. Alright. Third time's a charm. Let's try this one more time here and see what we can do. Okay, slide this all in. Man, this is definitely finicky. I seem to be hitting this other piece back here now. Let's try to do this then. So basically, you know, I'm just trying to get all this to fit. Everything was cut so specific. You know, I'm just trying to get all the wires to fit in. You know, I might have to put the board in by itself and then try to solder around everything after the fact. That's always not so easy either. Alright. Let's try this now. I think this is going to work. Okay. We just have to get it to seat all the way in. And these wires are in the way. Okay. think we are all the way in. Well, now we are. Which means this has to go. Alright, I think that's as far as it's going to go. So what I'm going to do is, now I got this sitting here, I'm just going to test fit this in here, see if that'll make the clearance, and it looks like it will. You know, the top's in right. That's probably, that should do it. All right. All right. So what we got so far, all right, you can see in there we got our output, our input, and our battery charge. All right, everything else is contained in the front of the board. Fire, up, down. So that's pretty simple there. Like I said in my previous video, you know, I decided I'm going to use this copper faceplate. The gentleman I purchased this off of, I guess for some reason the switches didn't get in the package. There was like little metal switches that are going to sit in these holes. I don't have them, so we'll save this faceplate for later. But maybe hopefully we can try to get this running. All right, so now I'm going to prep this battery tray. All right, so we're running this in series. All right, so the positive is going to come off this side, positive lead, negative lead. All right, and then the back is going to get jumped across. So we got separate pins. We got a positive contact and a negative contact, like a springy contact. So we're going to take one of these. We're going to take put them in the right spots here. A positive and a negative, and we're going to attach them together. All right. Like I said, 18 gauge wire. Now what I'm going to do here in the back, because we have to run the tap, I'll show you this in a second. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to attach to the one side, the other side, and I stripped out this middle here, and that's where those leads from the tap are going to connect to on the bottom side. All right, so same thing. We're just going to tin this up, and this looks like a 3D printed sled. So you probably want to do all your soldering off the sled so you don't melt the crap out of it. You know, as much as you can, because this stuff gets really hot. So we're gonna put a little bit on here. Now this is gonna get hot, so I'm gonna use some pliers. Alright, so that's one side. Let's see if we can get the other side in here. And I'm just going to pre-tin up that middle part. Alright, so we're going to let that cool down. Alright, for the other side, we've got our other positive contact. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach another piece of 18 gauge to that and leave it kind of long. And we're going to connect these up and, you know, we're going to connect these and